What if I told you that one of the most famous pilots in human history, a woman celebrated around the world for her courage and determination, vanished somewhere above the Pacific Ocean? And to this day, nobody truly knows what happened to her. Her name was Amelia Earhart, an aviation pioneer, a global icon, and one of the first people to prove that the sky was no longer the limit for humanity. At a time when flying itself was still considered dangerous, when aircraft were fragile, and long-distance flights often ended in disaster, Amelia Earhart kept flying farther, higher, more fearlessly. She broke records. She became the first woman to fly solo across the Atlantic Ocean. And slowly, her name became legendary. But in 1937, during the most ambitious journey of her life, she disappeared. Not gradually, not quietly, but as if she had been swallowed by the largest ocean on Earth. And from that moment onward, the disappearance of Amelia Earhart became one of the greatest mysteries in aviation history. It all began with an extraordinary dream: to fly around the world. Today, that may sound normal, but in the 1930s, it was nearly impossible. Navigation technology was extremely limited. There was no GPS, no modern radar, no satellite communication. Pilots relied on maps, compasses, stars, and manual calculations. A single mistake could place an aircraft hundreds of kilometers off course. And over the Pacific Ocean, a small mistake could mean death. For this historic mission, Amelia flew a Lockheed Model 10 Electra, a twin-engine aircraft specially modified for long-distance travel. Extra fuel tanks were installed. Every kilogram was carefully calculated. Every route was studied in detail. Traveling with her was an experienced navigator named Fred Noonan, a man skilled in celestial navigation during an era before modern technology. They both understood the danger, but they continued anyway. Because at that moment in history, humanity was obsessed with conquering the world through flight. And Amelia Earhart stood at the center of that dream. The journey itself was filled with problems: mechanical failures, bad weather, delays. An earlier attempt had already ended in an accident during takeoff, but Amelia refused to quit. The aircraft was repaired, the plans were reorganized, and the mission began again. This time, they successfully crossed huge portions of the world: South America, Africa, Asia. The world followed every stage of the flight. Newspapers reported her progress daily. Radio stations discussed her journey constantly. She was no longer just a pilot. She had become a symbol of modern courage. But the most dangerous part of the journey still remained: the Pacific Ocean, a massive, endless expanse of water. No major cities for emergency landings, no modern rescue tracking, no real-time monitoring systems. Only sky, ocean, and navigation accuracy. Their next destination was a tiny piece of land known as Howland Island. The island was incredibly small, so small that finding it in the middle of the Pacific was like trying to locate a single dot in an endless sea. But they had to find it, because their fuel depended on it. On July 2nd, 1937, Amelia Earhart and Fred Noonan departed from Lae, Papua New Guinea. It would become one of the most famous and mysterious flights in history. At first, radio communications seemed normal. They reported their position, weather conditions, flight progress. But over time, the transmissions became unstable. Signals weakened. Some messages sounded broken and incomplete. Then came the major problem. They could not locate Howland Island. Imagine the situation. A small aircraft, flying over a massive ocean, fuel slowly running out, searching for a tiny island nearly impossible to see. Stress began to rise, and during the final radio transmissions, Amelia sounded increasingly frustrated. She reportedly said they were close, but could not see the island. Then came one of the most famous radio messages in aviation history. "We are on the line 157337. For decades, those words confused researchers. Most believe she was referring to a navigational line they were attempting to follow. But shortly afterward, the transmissions stopped. No more voice, no more signals, no final distress call. The aircraft simply vanished. And the world immediately reacted. The United States launched one of the largest search operations of its time. Warships were deployed. Search aircraft scanned huge areas of the Pacific. Massive resources were committed to finding her. But the result was deeply unsettling. Nothing was found. No aircraft wreckage, no confirmed bodies, no definitive evidence. It was as if Amelia Earhart had disappeared from the Earth itself. And from that moment, the theories began. The most widely accepted explanation is simple. The aircraft ran out of fuel and crashed into the ocean. It remains the most logical theory. Difficult navigation, a tiny island target, limited fuel reserves. But there is one major problem. No confirmed wreckage has ever been discovered. And that absence keeps the mystery alive. Then came another theory, that Amelia actually survived the flight, at least temporarily. Some researchers believe she may have crash-landed on a remote island called Nikumaroro. According to this theory, Amelia and Fred Noonan survived the landing, but later died as castaways stranded on the island. Several discoveries there fueled speculation. Old metal fragments, artifacts from the period, even human bones were once analyzed. But no evidence has ever definitively proven the theory. The mystery remained open. Then came more controversial claims. Some believed Amelia Earhart had been captured by the Japanese. At the time, political tensions in the Pacific were already rising before World War II. According to this theory, the aircraft may have landed in Japanese-controlled territory, where Earhart and Noonan were detained. But once again, no conclusive proof was ever found. Yet, like all great mysteries, the lack of answers only allowed the story to grow larger. And perhaps that is why Amelia Earhart's disappearance continues to fascinate people even today. Because this is not just the story of someone getting lost. It is the story of a human being pushing beyond the limits of the known world and vanishing in the process. There is something deeply tragic and strangely beautiful about it. A woman who spent her life refusing to fear the unknown ultimately disappeared into one of the most vast and empty places on Earth. And even now, the Pacific Ocean still keeps its secret. Perhaps the wreckage still rests somewhere deep beneath the water, hidden in darkness no human has ever seen. Perhaps one day, technology will finally reveal the truth. Or perhaps some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved forever. And until that day comes, the questions surrounding Amelia Earhart will continue to echo through history. Not just how she disappeared, but how someone so close to changing history forever could suddenly vanish without leaving a trace.